well, one, I would listen to Brian because that obviously worked out well for us. I think almost every lesson in that class was like spot on, like the class that we had with you guys. And also like it makes way more sense looking back too, if that makes sense. Like when we were in the class, some of the stuff didn't necessarily make as much sense. And we were just like, oh, this like we'll take a leap of faith. We don't really know what we're doing. Really, is this like we should just like do this and try things and whatever. And then now looking back, like all of those lessons make sense. So I would have confidence just like in everything that Brian's saying, because it does make more sense after the fact, if that makes sense to me.
I think two things. One, I do think that college is the best time to start a company, and I think that there's a lot of thinking about entrepreneurship. I think a lot of like the risk taking is talked about, but I think in college you basically have the opportunity to work almost in a risk-free environment. I mean, that's like the first couple years we basically the only thing that we were really giving up was the maybe like internship experience, but we knew that we were probably learning more doing this than an internship anyway. And so I think that just knowing like, yeah, just not putting unnecessary pressure on yourself, trying to start as early as possible gives you time that your idea can develop and can change. Like a lot of the stuff that now we have worked on, we didn't initially have that idea. It came from working on the business. So I think that is really important. I think too, just not talking about it, but just trying to test it out and actually do it. And I guess if you're going to talk about it, at least talk about it to customers. Like it was very valuable to talk to Chris, even if we weren't testing out his product there. If it was me and Patrick just talking about what we thought was a good idea to do with the venue, first off, it would be better use of our time to talk to Chris, the Rick's owner. But then, second off, it would be the best to just test it out, even with just one customer, and see what things we could learn from that. And I think that that's
even our talks, like when we were talking about it internally, it was like, okay, let's like put together a list of questions for the Rick's owner. Like, and that was like the grounding foundation of each of our like talks was just like, what are like 10 more questions we can ask and like things we can try and then to go try them, not like, let's spend like 3 weeks brainstorming and building things that we don't know will be used.
And I think like, I really don't think it's a coincidence that like we are able to work on it after college and we started it like early in college because I had 4 years to work on the business and grow personally and have the business grow too. That like when we graduated, it wasn't really a risk at all to work on the business. Like we didn't have to put ourselves in a really tough spot necessarily because we had built some traction.
I think it was really early on, Brian. It felt like maybe one of Paul's first classes. And I remember Nick and I were like, that'd be so cool if we can be the company that comes out of here and then essentially be having this call and hopefully other companies would. So yeah, it's really cool. And I think it's just like, yeah, not to sound cliche, but it totally is possible. Like Nick and I just brute forced our way through so much stuff. Like these aren't like, by no means are we like genius people. Like we talked to 50,000 customers and like,
and that's, I mean, like
Wednesday, like we listened to everything you and Paul were saying. Like we didn't come through with a technology breakthrough. Really for us, it was just like not taking shortcuts, talking to our customers, staying lean, all that stuff.
Yeah. And that's kind of going back to my point on like what I think is the biggest correlation. I really do think it was that we started it early on in college and we had the long-term view that we just want to keep pushing on. And even when terrible things would happen, we'd take a step back and realize we still were slightly on an upward trajectory, even if we just had a really big dip. And I think that that's like there's really no reason why we should be working on it full time after college compared to any other people that are much smarter than us. But I think it's just that we learned a ton about the industry and we're had a lot of time to work on it basically.